Hello, and welcome to the Superversive Sunday live stream, where when I make a Saw reference to the people in my basement, they don't laugh. No sense of humor in those guys. I'm joined with April Freeman and Don Witzke to talk about the Planetary Anthology Earth, which is number 4, and, well, I'm in that one, so, I assume April's in that one. Don edited it. How about you two introduce yourselves?
All right, I'm Don Witzke, and I'm the editor of Earth, and that's pretty much everything anyone needs to know.
I'm A.M. Freeman. I was the editor for the Venus Anthology. I have short stories in the Planetary Anthologies as well as the Forbidden Thoughts Anthology. And hi, everyone.
Hello. The Earth says hello. So, Don, tell us about the Earth Anthology. What were you looking for, and how do you think it turned out?
I think it turned out really well, and I'm getting lots of positive feedback from readers. What I looked for in stories is I wanted a nice collection of, most of them are adventure. I like pulp. So I actually went out and asked a couple writers that do pulp writing to write for this anthology. I did get one of them. And
which one did you get?
I have Nathan Dabney.
Ooh.
I think that's how
Nice.
Jim Fear, basically, on Twitter. And he did a really nice Lost Worlds type story. But I have Lost World type stories. I have post-human stories, a mech story. There's even one about like climate change with the ancient god, based on the Greek god story with Persephone and what is it, Demeter?
Hey.
Yeah, Hades stealing Persephone and her mother.
Well, and this one is Pluto. Pluto was originally the god of the underworld, and this one has Pluto in it. So instead of Hades, Hades is the place, Pluto is the god. It worked out, but
nice.
They're having a lover's quarrel, and so when you bounce back and forth between between Olympus and Hades, things kind of have a way of messing up the weather a little bit. So there was that story that was kind of different from the rest of them. We have bot stories and just a quite wide variety of stories. It's really great. We have some really weird ones in there too, which is kind of awesome because I love weird stories.
They're the best, in my opinion.
They are, because you start reading them and you're just like, wow, this is way out in left field.
Yeah.
Yep. But done right, it's like, ooh. It's like opening your mind to a new vista, a new idea, a new thought pattern. Cannibalize it and take it for your own.
Gives you something to bug your eyes at.
Yep.
Keeps life interesting.
Yes.
April, tell us about your story.
So my story is, interestingly enough, the very first in my personal timeline. Since I have a story in pretty much all the anthologies, I have my own timeline running through it, but the release of the books is out of order from my thing. My story doesn't take place on Earth. It takes place on Mars, and you have the descendants of Alan Shepard and Yuri Gagarin, and instead of America and Russia racing for the moon, they are now racing to Mars. But it's a longer journey, and by the time they get there and try and get on the planet, there's possibly complications with landing, or is there room enough for two big-egoed, daring guys on the whole space of Mars? I don't know. You'll have to read and find out.
The answer is no.
Don't
Really?
spoil it. Don't spoil it. But and there's if you look closely, you'll see the connection between this one and the next one in my timeline will be Luna, which has to do with insanity. So you might be able to catch whatever connection I make, especially if you read them both. It's pretty fun. It's very just kind of adventurous. Are they going to survive? What's going to happen? Kind of thing. And it has to deal with trying to like make the truth get back, not letting the deception win.
So the real question is, I guess, since it's a survival story on Mars, is there potato farming?
No time for potato farming. Maybe if I whenever I combine all of my stories into one book, maybe I'll add a bonus scene where he's farming potatoes for some reason.
It's traditional. So there's a horrible Cold War joke, and it goes like this: a rocket finally lands on Mars. The astronauts inside are an American, a Russian, a German, and 2 Serbs. The American says, "We deserve Mars. Our funding got us here." The Russian says, "No, we do. We designed the rocket." The German says, "No, we do. Our scientists programmed the computers." One Serb turns to the other and shoots him. "Serbian blood has been spilled here. Mars is Serbian forever."
I mean, if it works.
Let's see, I'm in this, and yes. I wrote Ring Run, which is about a scientist on the run from his nanotechnological creation, which apparently shows up in more of my stories than I realized, like motorcycles. I write a story with motorcycles in it, and then it's like, wait a minute, I did that for Mercury, I did that for the novella, I did this for this, that. Cheek of Mars has it on there.
You do have a motorcycle or something? Do you like motorcycles?
They're so cool. But
you just need a sentient motorcycle. I'll send you a sentient motorcycle named Dave. How's that?
I've got cousins named Dave. That's hilarious. So anyway, he's on the run. It's actually not. So mine is also not set on Mars, but instead set on a ring world that has a gap. Set not on Mars, not on Earth either. But there's a ring world at the Goldilocks zone where our planet inhabits. With it's like a ring with a gem on it, and that's the Earth and the Moon. And so he's basically been running for 1,000 years or something ridiculous like that from his creation all the way around the ring planet. And I am happy to say that's where Earth comes in towards the end in the dramatic finale.
Nice.
It was actually something I wrote for college back in the day, and I realized that it could fit somewhere in here, and I'm like, I could make 350 out of this, and so on and so forth. You know, when I
heard you say Ring World, now I wish that someone had written a story about a circus in space.
Oh. See, I have to hold myself back because I love that stuff. I love it so much. But I can never fully put it in. I'm writing Cyber Gothic, and I'm hoping I can put the traveling circus motif into it. But,
the Gothic space circus?
Yes.
On motorcycles.
Oh, yeah. So, no. You know how you have the, there's that ball, big metal ball people go in with motorcycles and do tricks in?
Yeah.
You can do it, but in like 0G, and you have rockets, or you're like, something like that.
Do it at light speed, and the ball
is
the size of galaxies.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh. I can't imagine the amount of energy that would take. That would be just wasteful, but hilarious. No, it's interesting, like, because when you look at your own work and you look at sort of the themes that run through it, and you're like, is this a flaw or is this something good?
I have a lot of my stories. I have a lot of people, innocent people, old ladies and children that get killed.
It's like hearing you go Rocky and dogs. You know, like the enemy shows up, several dogs just fall over dead. It's like,
I know when the first like 2 novels I started writing, and then probably in a lot of my works, is my theme always ends up being family, or or the first 2 books I started writing was always someone trying to get back to their family.
I saw too many of those dogs traveling across the country to get back to their owners. You've seen those?
None of mine are like that. I don't know. I haven't heard of those dogs.
No, there's a joke about pit bulls where it's like heroic pit bull travels 3,000 miles across country to maul a human child.
Oh my gosh.
I like their such black humor, but oh man. But no, they're like
good. I like my humor. Like I like my coffee dark and seeping in the morning or something.
Well, I was talking to
I tried.
No, I actually did that recently because Anthony Marchetta is reading Sheik of Mars to review it on Castalia House if he thinks it's worthy. And he goes, Ben, your run-on sentences, like your sentence structure is too crazy. It's taking me out of it. I'm like, I like my sentence structure like I like my women, thick and Byzantine. So, how about you? So, family, dead old ladies and children, motorcycles and circuses. Someday. Let's see.
That if we collaborate on a story, it will turn out to be a sentient motorcycle trying to get back to his family, but he has to get through this mob of old ladies and children.
Right. No, it's a circus of fear. They leave one of their motorcycles behind, and the heroic motorcycle needs to get back to its family of motorcycles. See, that's perfect. And of course, there's a lot of murder, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look out for that story from Superversive Press in the next month or 2.
oh
no. Well, right at the speed of pulp.
Oh yeah.
And the mental commitments shortly after there.
Right. Man, I'm editing 2 stories and writing a cyber gothic and other things like that. And it's
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So, go for it.
No, go ahead.
So, Don, did you have one that you had that you were just like, wow, this is the one to be the example of Planetary Anthology Earth?
That one, yes. Well, sort of. There were several that I really, really liked. But I put the first one, and I thought that one probably set the tone for the rest of the anthology. And that one had to do with, I'm terrible at explaining stories, but it involves dwarves that attack a seafood convention.
What?
Okay.
It was awesome. It's weird. It's adventurous, and it's just it's a fun story.
It sounds a little fishy to me.
Sounds fantastic.
It's got a main character.
Since it's dwarves, is it a short story? Is it a nice short dwarf story?
Okay.
But the main character.
Am I a fish out of water here? Like,
it's flopping around. Just
my puns just keep flopping. It's okay. I understand. I've been trained well.
All right, keep going, Doc. Keep going. You gotta push through.
Yeah, don't let me dig you in the hole here.
No, the one of the lead characters is always chewing out the this other guy for calling them dwarves instead of what is it? Differently heights.
Okay.
Heightually impaired.
It's I thought vertically challenged, but apparently differently height or differently something. Anyway, so he's always trying to get to be politically correct and stuff. It just turns out hilarious. But that was one of my favorite. But there's also one that's about this new technology. The governments are trying to attack this. It's a small facility that figured out a way to turn recycling into building materials. It basically it cleans up the environment and cleans up all the garbage and leftovers and turns that garbage into energy, which builds walls out of just randomly. They just appear out of nowhere. It's
Ooh.
really kind of cool. And so all these governments are trying to capture it and keep it as, take over this company and keep it as their own. So that was kind of a really interesting story too.
Nice.
I know. I want that technology.
I know.
Right? Random walls. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds like a great.
Well, let's see here. Ooh, what's up? Apparently, Bar One Studios. Apparently, it does just randomly spawn walls. But you know what? That's actually just like a cool idea for like horror stories, for SCP Foundation stuff. It's just really interesting. I'm trying to bring up the my Amazon Cloud Reader so I can look at the Planetary Anthology Earth, but it keeps on crashing on me. Fortunately, it's keeping me around, but that's all right.
Let's see.
He's asking, do they materialize, pop up from the ground, or drop down like Tetris? I am going to go with pop up from the ground because that makes the most sense.
I think in the story they just materialize.
Huh. So like you're walking down.
The guy tells the computer that you want a wall somewhere, and it just appears.
I like it.
I know.
That could be like a horror maze, like you're trying to get out of a maze, but it keeps changing. Kind of like how we play Corridor.
Yeah.
Just remake the fairy maze. That's always been a terrifying sort of concept. Babes in the wood come into a maze. The maze keeps changing.
Hey, it works as a defense for this company. The military go into a place, and all of a sudden it's like the walls keep coming up wherever, and directing them in different places. Because once you put a wall up, you can also take it down.
Ooh.
So you can have those people completely going in circles for hours, and they'll have never be able to get out because you can just randomly put in walls wherever you want.
So walk themselves to exhaustion. Yeah, was this one written as like, what was the tone of that story? Was it sort of horror or adventure?
No, it was more adventure, a little more hopeful because the company is trying to get away. They're going to go off to someplace else, and they want to distribute this technology to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of they're just trying to escape.
Being trapped down by a single government.
Yeah. Because I think if I remember right, there's Chinese in there, there's Americans, several other countries, and just trying to get their hands on this technology.
Yeah.
The real question is, can they materialize it around a person, and how horrifying is it really?
I don't know, but that would make a nice horror story.
I love it.
Good.
Let's see what other stories we had. We had one by Lou Antonelli. His has a teenager that gets stuck having to go to another planet because her dad gets reassigned to the moon.
Okay. I like
it. Richard Palinelli's, this is more of a adventure type story. It's not set on Earth. It's more in space. Arlie Andrews has a story in there, and he's actually a prisoner. Mars is a prison colony, so
Classic.
That story takes place in there. Jody Lynn Nye has a story in, and hers she has to. She is basically a military main character that has to save the only person left that knows how to run the weapon that will kill these aliens that are taking over the planet and killing everyone. And it's a kid. I think he's about 18, 19. And the only thing I can think of when she's describing this kid is they're all going to die. Because he's a ultra lefty vegan. Let's see. What else?
I thought you were just going to say he's funny and wink. This is worse.
Oh, he's also a pacifist. It's just you throw all of these things together and you're like, oh, they're just going to die. And she has to get him to the control room to use this weapon, and he doesn't want to kill anybody because, they're just misunderstood aliens, and, they just need a hug or something.
They're made of spines. It's not gonna work.
So it's just that was kind of crazy too.
Sounds fun.
That Alfred Jennison had a reality run, which is a post-human one. So this, I'm not even sure what to call it, but basically a mind is the thoughts of a person is put into this body, and he goes out into the world on an adventure to see what real life looks like rather than the inside of a computer.
Most stories I've read about that end so poorly.
It's just it's very different.
Hopefully. There's always that famous Futurama one where Bender becomes a man and he dies 800 pounds, immense, and it's just horrifying. But at the same time, it's so full of self-satisfaction. It's like, I don't know what the sort of moral of the story is. So tell these scientists to lighten up.
Yeah.
Very strange episode.
Yeah. Let's see. We have R.D. Beware. Trying to think of his. Was the next story. And Dabney is the Lost World. John Olson has a story, more of a military story. And then, let's see who else. Dan Gallagher had a story called The Dawn of Reason, which is almost like a Garden of Eden type story, a different take on it.
Nice.
Josh Griffin. His story was also, I believe, a military story. Han Shantz had an alien story, which is set in his novels.
I haven't read them, unfortunately.
I haven't read them either. And so I didn't realize they were set in there. And now I have to read them because that story is really good. Wenchel, he had a really weird story. His is I hate to give away too much of it, but there's a zoo. It's a people zoo. And it's a really creepy people zoo.
Mm-hmm. Those are just the best.
And and then I already talked about Beckwith. And then Boker Brumley has a kind of a space adventure one where there's bots, and the bots are getting married, which I think is really a odd concept. I just can't imagine computers getting married, but they're supposed to be getting married, and unfortunately the space station they're on goes down. And so this bot is having to choose between her future husband and this human little girl. So it's kind of it's called We'll Always Have Earth. And it's kind of a sad story because, people die. But I'm not going to tell you who she ends up saving, so.
Well, it's going to be poignant and tragic. Anyone she chooses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, out of curiosity, did you have any thought in how you arranged them, like how you chose Bokuraz as the first one and W.G. Hayes is Bokuraz is the last one and W.G. Hayes as the W.J. Hayes. My goodness, words. Good thing I'm not writing today much. As the first and last one, and how you wanted it to sort of go through.
Well, I did it old school. I had all these little pieces of paper where I wrote down the title and a little bit about the story and what kind of story it was and how long it was. And then I sat and rearranged pieces of paper until I got everything. But Bokura is really, that one kind of screamed that it should be an end story. Because it kind of summed up a lot of the whole theme of the whole Earth story. You know, we'll always have Earth, no matter whatever anything else happens. That there'll always be that. And the first one I picked because it kind of set the tone for the rest of the anthology. And then everybody else just kind of got into place where I'm like, okay, well, this story's like this, and it's a short one. And I tried to alternate long stories and short stories, and not put two stories that are similar together, just to get a nice variety.
Yeah.
Make it a roller.
Did you have kind of percentage? Did you have of ones going with mainly the theme of adventure and Earth, and people going with the theme of like any of the gods? Because I know you mentioned one had Pluto, but what was kind of a percentage of the different takes of the themes?
Well, I only had one that really was on the gods, and the rest were almost evenly split between stories that took place on Earth and stories that took place like in outer space and more adventure type. So I was really surprised. I thought I'd end up with a whole bunch of a whole bunch of one style story and then only a little bit of other ones, but it seemed to be a good broad mix. It wasn't too hard to come up with a layout or a story order that had a nice variety.
All right. Let's see here real quick. It's all right. Is there any of the stories that you think would be good to read out loud for the benefit of our audience?
Not
too long, of course, because we're about half an hour in. I would like to see if we can do one of these.
Boy, trying to think of which one would have a nice short. Lou Antonelli's is probably the shortest one that we have, I believe. Okay. His is really quick read and.
I'm trying to bring it up. Where was he? Oh, he's the second one. I'm too far ahead. My goodness. Alien team is supposed to move the family. Now, you see, one of the things I always like about Earth potential stories is that I think I'm still in the first one. Is when they do the Earth is actually a hell planet, and let's see.
Oh, like the Heck Yeah Humanity stories.
Right, exactly.
It's those are great.
I need to write one of those sometime, just to make it like have the. I already have like this idea in my head. I just don't know whether I'm going to fit it in. But it's like to
for
have
anyone
this.
that doesn't understand what that is, a good example is some aliens come down to Earth and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you have all these harsh environments, like the North Pole. How did you conquer the North Pole?" Well, we sent some people in and they died, but we sent some other people in until we eventually worked. They're like, "So you sent people in and they died. So your answer was to send more people."
Hey, they wanted to go.
And this is why it's Heck Yeah Humanity.
Right. No, write a story from an alien's perspective, and then have like this alien bounty hunter fight monsters or whatever, and it turns out it's just a little girl in a power suit, and it's like, oh, these are the feared humans everyone's afraid of. It's like, did my little girl enjoy some gardening?
A girl in like a snow outfit, like she went skiing, and so she's all padded up and looks like this blob monster. But it's actually just this adorable little girl with, like, I don't know, a golf club or a magic wand with her dolls and using the dolls as a battering ram.
Right. Just screaming and everyone's ears are falling to the, everyone's ears are bleeding. It's like, how could this happen? How do they tolerate this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to, phase it out. She stops eventually.
Great. Before you start reading, I may go ahead and sign off before long. I've got some things I still gotta do, but I may just drop off at some point.
Okay, that's all right. Honestly, it's just one of those things where, fill out some time.
Yeah. Make some puns. That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. Man, I wish I was better at puns.
Oh, no. I am so... Compared to Pierce, I can't even touch that. I don't know how, like, he does it, but he does, and it's painful and yet beautiful, and I just can't even process it most of the time. His puns are amazing. I think he has, like, some people have the gift of tongues. Pierce has the gift of puns.
It's like metaphors or something like that. It's just you have a gift for him, or you just don't, and you just have to live with it and envy those who have them.
Yes, he does kind of. I'm trying to think how many dad level jokes he had. Someone in the chat asked if it was dad joke level, but definitely by the time the kids come, he'll have plenty in his arsenal.
The kids just start screaming. It's like, Pierce, stop! No.
Screams and child, screams and dad's puns.
Right.
And I just hear his friend once told me, he looked at me and he's like, just remember, April, you chose this. And so I'll be like on the ground in pain, like as a bombardment of puns just like wash over me, or whatever nonsense happens next when I'm around him. And I'll just hear in my head, you chose this. Keeps life interesting, so it's okay.
There's a kid on a couch psychologist. So tell me about your father. Well, hi, father. It's like, oh no, wait.
Have you ever heard about the dad convention? We needed, like, someone once had the idea of like a dad convention where all the dads come, make jokes, do whatever dads do, and you come in the room and someone accidentally says, "Hey, I'm hungry," and then all the heads turn, and in unison, the dads say, "Hi, hungry. I'm Dad."
See, this is this humor aliens will never get. These guys.
We need the dad squad taken out. Like, they're in their socks and sandals with like barbecue sticker things as weapons. But like their Hawaiian shirts unbuttoned, showing off their glorious chesty hair and hairy chest and dad gut, and to just go at it and chase all the aliens away, making jokes as they go.
This is why we don't have.
Where was this in the Man Anthology? Please tell me this story was in the Man Anthology.
We'll find out next week.
I'll write it on a sticky note and just stick it at all the anthology, the Man Anthologies.
Right. The alien invasion went great until they realized that they were vulnerable to fire and many spices, molasses. All right. So I guess I'll read out Lou Antonelli's "This Planet Is a Whole" story. It is kind of short.
Come on, you have to get the teenage girl voice in there.
Dad always knew I wanted to go someplace else. I mean, I think I got it. The problem will be keeping it up all the time.
Wait, maybe I should read this. No, I'm not a teenage girl anymore. Technically. I can probably still do it. Dad knew I wanted to go someplace else. Is that good enough?
It made my backhand twitch. So
Maybe
yeah,
should I read it?
Go for it. Keep it up.
You'd have to send it to me or something. You just go ahead. I probably should sign off soon anyway. Next time.
What
then everyone might leave if I start reading. I'll be like, oh my god, like whatever.
Whatever. Anyway, so what projects are coming up for you, April? Before you leave.
Basically planetary stuff. LibertyCon's coming up, everyone. We're gonna have an entire panel talking about the Planetary series at LibertyCon, which is going to be great. We'll have some different tables. I've got a stack of books. Jason sent me the books for LibertyCon, so I can take them up there. So definitely, if anyone's coming, come find us. I think there's some sort of scavenger hunt planned. For the most part, just trying to get the last few planetary things done, wedding planning, all that kind of like 1,000 little details I'm trying to chase around. So writing wise, just getting the planetary stuff done. I'll probably take a break and maybe work on some other things.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to it.
Woo!
You doing anything for Soul when it comes out?
Yes. That will be the last one in my timeline. And I'm going to attempt to write that in some form of an epic poem and try and like something about maybe the death of the sun of the universe or however it turns out. I've only got like a vague idea on that one. I think I've got 3 more to do.
Fantastic.
That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm doing the Soul one, and it's continuously pushed back. So it'll
be fun. Like that's why right now I'm not too worried. Like I've been trying to go through my room, figuring out what to keep clean, and then traveling, and I'm gonna have to go to Kentucky in a couple weeks or end of July, and just all the little details. So my writing's been a little bit half and half with everything.
I know that feel. Dawn, give us a good word. What are you working on?
I am. Let's see. What am I working on? Like 30 million different things.
Wedding planning too?
Wedding planning too, because I'm getting married at the end of this month.
Everyone, just so you know, the Superversive Press is also a dating site for all the authors involved. Great fiction brings great people together. It's happened like 3 times.
I just can't wait until it happens to me. It's going to be crazy whirlwind. Maybe at least one kidnapping. Just some light kidnapping.
You're going to do like Pluto did to Persephone. You're just going to go snatch a wife and take them with and hide
Find a good Russian woman with big hips. Find best girl, make her best waifu.
Exactly. This is how this works, except, I think people might complain with me just walking up, throwing somebody over my shoulder, stuffing her into my beat-up Toyota Corolla.
Works.
Yeah, exactly.
Better believe it.
Yeah.
Just driving around, hey, you want McDonald's? I want to get free of this. Well, I can get you a McChicken. It's not that big of a deal. I want my parents.
We're good people, everyone. We're actually good people. Please read our fiction.
It's we hurt our characters so much so that they come out like gold. It's for their own good.
Yeah, when the lines start blurring a little bit. I was convinced that Jaji had powers that influence my love life because she is the supreme romantic. Like she is the. I don't know. Jaji has powers. I swear. Like she, like the ships and everything. Like the matchmaking skills. That's the word. She is like the ultimate matchmaker and like love guru.
That sounds terrifying. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Wait, Don, don't tell me that you too were drawn into this.
No. My future husband liked my my Jack the Ripper story.
Well, that's an introduction.
Hey, that works for me.
I mean, I get to say that. I always tell people we got published together, and it was he stole me from my favorite author's son. But it's all good. He won the joust.
Oh my goodness.
You should have us on more often. This is fun.
We're gonna have all kinds of future story ideas here.
Oh yeah, we've had like what, 5 so far?
At least.
What we need to do is now for each of the story ideas, we need to do a stream and just play round robin and write the story on air for everyone to enjoy.
Hey, that's certainly something for the future. Ooh.
We should do that. Okay, someone in the comments, write down this, like, listen through this again, write down the story ideas, and send it to us. And then maybe we'll, if you do that work, we'll let you on and play round robin with us while we write this story.
It'll be a very demented, scary.
With motorcycles, murder of old ladies and children, and families. Well, maybe not big family.
We'll
subvert it. It's a murderous old lady.
The murderous old lady getting on the bicycle trying to get back to her grandchildren.
In the second novel that I'm working on currently, that I hope to have done by LibertyCon, at least the first draft, I get to hang a priest.
That's good to know.
She just leaves it like
always
that.
screamed at that.
All the good people in my stories die.
Oh no, someone's scribbling Superversive Press fanfic. Help us.
No.
I knew it would come to this.
You keep me out of your charts, yeah. You hear? No shipping charts for me. Actually, no, you can ship me though.
Yeah, right. Okay, whoever Baron of the Blue Bear 4, you need to write a fanfic of how Ben Wheeler meets his future wife, the Gorilla Girl.
It must include a motorcycle.
Yes.
Right.
And murder.
There's a white marble statue, and it's like have you seen the painting? There's a famous painting of Hades taking up Persephone, but there's he's pulling her into the chariot, very dramatic. Except it's like me just like grabbing her by the waist on the motorcycle, pulling her off, and she's like pushing away. It's like, oh, okay, that's the type of drama, I can do it. But the problem is I would not know what to do with the next day. Like, it's like, I've got her. She's tied up in like the bedroom or whatever, and it's like, so now what do
So you want to
here?
watch some anime?
I
got Pocky.
I'm not that much of a weeb. I'm just
Just remember, you have to feed her at least 3 times a day and give her water.
2.
Because,
call her pretty.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, you're real
Say,
pretty.
oh,
and she's,
those
like,
robes
biting me.
really compliment your eyes. Does a lot to soften up your skin. Oh no, that's not a pot of boiling water. That's not what I meant. Your skin's fine where it is for now.
Hey, look, I appreciate your teeth. They're great. They're white. They get through my skin like nothing else. But the biting has to stop a little bit. I'm getting
Nibbling is
infections.
fine. Biting.
You know, if I stand on my head, it looks like you're smiling instead of scowling in complete hatred.
And could you please speak English? That Russian, I just don't understand a word of it.
Oh, David, you missed it. We already talked about Planetary, the stories, but we should probably stop and read a story now.
Yeah, I'm gonna read Louis Antonelli's "This Planet Is a Whole," which is the second story in the Earth Anthology, and short enough for me to read on stream. If you guys have to leave, thank you both for being on, and sometime in the future we can figure this out. And write the Superversive novel we've always dreamed of, with all the motorcycle servers.
We'll just read. We'll get some group participation, and they can write their fanfic in the chat, and we'll read it out loud as they write it. Nothing could go wrong.
I haven't written a fanfic in years. I'm like,
all right. Well,
anyway.
I better go because if I stay on, I'm just gonna keep making snarky comments.
Yeah, I gotta leave too. So.
All right. You have fun, Ben. We'll be listening.
Yep.
I'll be fine. I'll stick around.
All right.
So let's do it. This planet is a whole. Lou Antonelli. Dad always knew I wanted to go to someplace else. I mean, he's worked for the Colonial Service all his life. You'd think we get to go to someplace, any place. There are planets out there that are so cool. Keteran's with its double spinning rings, Mavistan with its interior satellite, Murfu with two double stars. But no, he's never been a desk jockey all his life, and has ever been. He's never been a desk jockey all his life, and has ever been posted anywhere interesting, which means I've never lived anywhere interesting. I'm stuck every day with the same old sets of popular kids, jocks, nerds, and freaks. There are days I want so out of junior high school I could scream out loud, real loud. So loud those colonists on those other interesting planets could hear me. Well, this day, Dad comes home, kisses Mom, pets Blaster on his head, and sits down opposite to me. Hi there, Space Princess, he starts. I didn't look up. What do you want, Dad? I have some good news and some bad news today, he said. Give me the bad news first, I said. I didn't ask you to choose, he said. I'm giving you the good news first. Whatever. You know, at my grade classification in the Colonial Service, I'm not in line to be, transferred off planet. I can't be assigned as a settler or a colonist. Yeah, I noticed. You sit on your butt all day in an office and stare at a screen. What's new? However, I do have the opportunity to make a lateral transfer to the intelligence division, he said. I recently asked for a reassignment. So what? Intelligencers all work off planet, he said. My request has been approved too, and I have an assignment. Mom had been listening from the kitchen. That's wonderful. Did you get an increase in pay? Dad turned in his seat. A hefty one. 2,000 credits per period. Mom came in the room. Fantastic. Where's the assignment? Now he had my attention. I looked up. Yes. Oh, wait. Yes, where's the new assignment? Where are we going? Dad looked at Mom and then at me. That's the bad news. Since it's my first assignment in the intelligence division, I didn't draw one of the more desirable planets. I went back to what I was doing. Nothing ever goes right. So what planet is it? Dad shrugged and looked at Mom. It's not one of ours. We will live undercover. That explains the good pay, said Mom. Which one is it? I grunted. Dryad, he said. I tossed my pad sideways on the couch. Dryad? That place is a hellhole. I won't go. Dad frowned. You always said you'd like to travel. I'm getting a good raise and a chance to move ahead in a new division. I crossed my arms. I don't care. Mom walked behind Dad and put a hand on his shoulder. Yep. Everything I'd ever heard about Dryad made it sound like the armpit of the galaxy. First off, 2/3 of the freaking planet is covered in oceans of acid. Dihydrogen monoxide. You ever hear of that stuff? It'll dissolve almost anything and it corrodes metal. On Dryad, it falls from the clouds onto the ground. From the clouds. Even the natives don't like it and try to hide from it. Oh, the natives. I'd heard about them too. There are like a dozen sentient species on the planet, always trying to kill and eat each other. There are millions of life forms and everything eats the plant life, which has evolved to thrive in that thick, acid-soaked atmosphere. Think about it, said Dad. Next day in school, I could tell the word was already getting around about my moving. Katana, there we go. Katana came up to me and asked straight out, is it true you're going to Dryad? My dad wants to, but I'm not going. Why not? That planet is like deadly, man. It sounds cool. Some jock walked by. Ah, and some acid cloud will turn it into a puddle of plasma. I made a universally understood gesture toward him and answered Katana. It will be too much of a hassle, and we'll have to live undercover. It's a spy assignment. Oh, like double cool, she squealed. Where are you sitting? Like, let's talk. Dad had told me that such undercover assignments are only for 2 rev stretches, and we'd be back home after that. That's cool, said Katana. She said cool a lot. You'll be back in time for high school, and then you can tell me all about it. I guess, I said as I poked my vegetables. Maybe I'll think about it. It wasn't too much later that all 3 of us were at the colonial base in orbit around Dryad. The base was on Dryad's moon. That's another thing screwy about the planet. Only one moon, and it's gigantic. 1/6 the size of the planet itself. Dad pointed out that Dryad's rotational axis is tilted. This littler planet must have been gravitationally captured. Figures. Planet got hit on the head and knocked loopy, I said. Mom smiled at me. Dryad's moon is rotationally locked, so the same side always faces the planet. Our colonial base is on the far side, the dark side. I was tugging on my basic atmosphere suit. Does anyone down there know that we are here? Dad smiled. Maybe. Can't tell you. That's a secret. They certainly don't know we're spying on them. Some text helped me with the prosthetics. The dominant species on Dryad are bye-byes, bimanual, bipedal. One head, and although almost every other species on the planet has them, no tails. So the only real headache we have is hiding our tails. But since the Dryadians wear clothes, that was easy to deal with. We'll pop into a short hole and slide onto the planet's surface, said Dad. Our safe house is already waiting for us. He looked at me. It's the middle of a continent, very far away from any of its oceans, he said. It's a very safe place. Yeah, right, I muttered as I pulled on a Dravidian-style wig. It still rains acid from the clowns. Mom patted me on my head. I swatted her hand away. This will provide some protection, she said. But remember, the natives don't like rain either, even though they have acid blood. There's always a place to hide. Wonderful. Wait, I gotta do that right. Wonderful. I side-mouthed. Ready for your slide? Asked the tech. As ready as we'll ever be, said Dad. Dad. I grunted and resigned myself to 2 years of hell. The Dryadian social structure is much like ours. So guess what? I had to go to school, their equivalent of our junior high school. Mom was right about one thing. The Dryadians don't like getting covered in dihydrogen monoxide, despite the fact that their bodies are full of it. They all live and work indoors, which made me feel a little relaxed on the first day when we arrived at school. I stood outside the school and looked over the structure after Dad dropped me off. I rubbed my nose and looked around. This place smelled alien, and the sounds were squeaky and confused. A male Dryadian walked past me, then stopped and turned. Hey there, you look confused. Do you need any help? I looked at him. Yes, I'm new here. This is your first day? He said. Bummer. It's always rough to be the new kid in school. He walked over to me. I was the new kid a year ago. I know what it's like. He extended a hand. My name's Evan Summer. I recognized the gesture from the instruction I was given and extended mine. My name's Kit. My name's Kit, I said. We shook hands. Pleased to meet you, Kit, said Evan. Come on in with me. I'll show you around and introduce you to my friends. He pulled his face up into what Dryadians call, did I have been saying Dravidians? Dryadians call a smile, which, despite its teeth-baring, is a friendly gesture. I was rather surprised by myself by returning the gesture quite artfully. I'd like that very much, I said. He turned, and I followed beside him as we entered the school. Just as we entered, I looked up at the identification on the structure. Harry S. Truman, Middle School, Grand Prairie, ISD. I'll suppose I'll learn who that leader Truman was inside, I thought, as we passed through the doors. That's the end of This Planet is a Hole by Lou Antonelli. Yeah, it's all right. I always find this so funny. Threat display as a greeting. Yeah. Every other species bears his teeth. But we're like, hey, friend. Hey, friend. And we find it weird when we have no teeth. Yeah, it's odd. Anyway, Planetary Anthology has been released. I hope you enjoyed that small sampling. There should be a link. Let me check it. Oh, there is. There's a link to Planetary Earth in the description below. We also have Sheik of Mars link down there. Do check it out. That's my novel set on Mars, and it's covered by Arabian culture, Muslim, Islam stuff, and a guy's wife is kidnapped. He has to go get her back, as is the classic thing. Then we also have the To Be Men anthology, which is being released soon, and it has a whole bunch of people, and it's helmed by, I'm not in it, Mona Lisa Morgan Foster. Yes. Should probably click that link and discover whether or not it's true or not. But you know what? I'm a confident man. Yep. So those are the three things coming out there. I think we have Jacob the Dynamo coming out soonish. And various people are going to LibertyCon and whatnot. And I'm sure that they'll have a stream about it. In 2 weeks, I might be taking a break. I might not. We'll find out. But I'll make sure someone else takes over from that then. Next week, join us for a To Be Men live stream with mystery guests who are still working through their schedules to make sure that they can come on. But at the very least, I'll have Mona Lisa Foster with me, as well as at least one other person. We'll see. Have next week's Father's Day. Remember your fathers. Pray for them. They are fallible, as you are. And have a wonderful rest of your evening.